Hi everyone, my name is Chika and this is Syntax and Script. When I decided to become a cloud DevOps engineer, taking the Microsoft Azure Fundamentals certification exam was just the beginning. I knew I had to acquire other skills like learning how to deploy containers, Kubernetes, and every other thing that DevOps people do in their work. Yes, I had already acquired a little bit of those skills from a bootcamp, a cloud bootcamp that I was part of. But the automation part was a big issue because to do automation, you have to do scripting, and to do scripting, you have to know how to script. And scripting is done in using programming languages like Python, JavaScript, and Bash. Now, Bash was coming along fine for me. I was doing well because it was more of Linux, but Python was a big issue. Now the fundamentals of Python came easily for me, but when it started progressing to a bit more advanced, like when we start going to classes and objects and the like, problem will start. My first experience with coding was in the early days of my tech journey. I started learning with C for some reason. Actually, my husband put me on the path to C. He's a software engineer. I started learning C on plural sites with plural site videos, and to be honest, anytime I put on those video tutorials to watch, I would find myself dozing off. First of all, I was not even understanding what was going on. Then I also tried to learn C with CS50's that's Harvard CS50 classes on YouTube, and well, it was going some ways, but really it was not working. So I left C. I just said, at this point it didn't occur to me that probably programming is not for me, but I said it has to be the language. So I left C. Fast forward to choosing DevOps, I met programming again, and at this point I just chose Python because when I was learning the fundamentals on LinkedIn, it was a bit more like English. So I said, yes, this is something I can do. To take my Python skills to an advanced level, I enrolled on Google's IT support automation with Python course on Coursera. Everything was going fine because at this point, in the early days of the course, we were still doing fundamental Python programming, that's the foundations, and this was what I already knew was going well until, and the course is a 5-part course, as 5 courses before you get the certification. I was still in course 1, I believe it was in week 5, object-oriented programming. That was when the wheels fell off. Yes, before we got to week 5, from week 4, I was already having difficulties submitting my assignments on my own without going online to check for answers. And it was giving me a bit of concern because I'm the kind of person that likes to do the work. At the same time, I know that sometimes when you have difficulties with your code, you can check online to see if there are people who have encountered a similar problem and how they were able to surmount it. So it makes sense for you to go online and look for answers. But that's supposed to be like a one-time thing, or occasionally, not like when you now have to, the first thing you do when you're presented with a coding problem is to just go online because you don't even know where to begin. And that's not how I intended to learn, to get the skills I would need for a career. I mean, it's not sustainable in the long term. So week 5, object-oriented programming, Coursera, I paused. I felt it was going to be a short pause to move forward to a more practical approach of learning, where I use the skills I've already acquired and do some practices and probably get better at them. So I found alternative platforms like CodeWars.com and learning on SoloLearn.com. The SoloLearn one was going well. I was doing very well there. But with CodeWars, because it was more practical, they just give you a sample of the kind of code they want you to do, depending on your level of proficiency that you will choose by yourself. I chose the beginner level, and even at beginner level, the code that they gave me to do there, I failed, woefully. Maybe I did one or two, but I couldn't pass the beginner level on CodeWars.com. And just as I was about to give up on coding, I got accepted into ALX's software engineering program. Why I chose this program was because I looked at their curriculum, and there was a bit of C in the beginning, but further down there was more of Python. Like, the Python was the major programming language that they were going to teach you software engineering in. So I got into ALX. I was very happy because with ALX's style of teaching, it was going to be more of a boot camp, and with a boot camp, like, you're learning with your peers, there's going to be a lot of peer programming, and I was looking forward to the added pressure of learning in this kind of environment. There are deadlines, and to help me pass this roadblock or this block in programming. Unfortunately, after the first few weeks, things were going fine. It was still the basics. We were still in the C part of the program. It was still the basics. I was doing fine. I was even the lead of my team. But with time, I realized that the time we were given to do each task and submit the deadline and everything, it was just not going to work, because you're given a task, and before you even understand what the task is about, the deadline has passed, and you have to keep a certain cutoff mark to be in the program. That was not my problem. I could keep the cutoff mark because everybody else was going online to get their answers, and you get these answers online thinking that, oh, after submitting, I'll go back and learn what I'm supposed to learn. But you find that before you even have time to go back to the one that you missed, the next one, the deadline is already here. I just could not go on with that style of learning. So I had to tell myself the truth and drop out of ALX. With my dropping out of ALX, I also had to give up on my cloud DevOps engineering dream. Yes, because I realized if I could not learn Python, then was really the point. What am I going to use to do scripting? Because automation is a big part of DevOps, and you can't do automation with only Bash. I mean, Bash can only take you so far, but you need a real programming language. So yeah, I told myself that I just have to let go. Maybe in the future there is a way to work around not knowing Python or JavaScript and just doing only Bash. Even with the Bash, I don't even know how, because I was still at intermediate level, not exactly pro level. So you can imagine having a career with something you're not very good at. Yeah. So that was that with DevOps. And the good thing about my journey so far at that point was that I had already acquired some skills. Now I had gotten an IT support certification and an Azure certification. The Azure one helps me with knowing about Microsoft Learn. Microsoft Learn is a platform, is Microsoft official learning platform for knowing about their products. Learning about this platform was handy, because when I decided to go into IT support full time and start looking for IT support jobs, I found out that there is a part of IT support where you can focus or your team is focused on providing support for only Microsoft's apps. So the knowledge or knowing about Microsoft Learn helped me to prepare for those interviews, and the plan was to move from IT support to system administration at some point in my career. Unfortunately, that has not been the case, or that has not materialized yet. I'm still working on getting the CompShare certification, but in the meantime, I have taken to blogging about tech and building a community of people who will not be making the same mistakes that I made, or going through the same struggles that are avoidable, which I have made on their behalf. So I'm sharing my journey on syntaxandscript.com. If you would like to know how I became a tech blogger, or how I built my blog, if you would like a video on that, please drop a comment. And also, if you've ever struggled with coding, or had to drop off from coding, or give up on coding, please also let me know in the comments. You're not alone. And once again, thank you for watching this video. I'm very grateful. See you in the next one.